Hello and welcome to episode 28 of the Project Bag podcast. Shall we see what I've got for you? On the show for you this week, I have another hopping onto your screens. I'm so close to having another finished object for you. Yes, it was a new cast on, but it's almost cast off. And I finally get to talk a little bit about the wool Monty and how I found my very first fibre festival. Hello and welcome. To those of you that don't know me, my name is Gemma and I am so pleased to be coming to you tonight from my home in Kent, where I live with my husband and my two cats, Archie and Kit 9. For returning viewers of the podcast, thank you for coming back, and may I say thank you again for your patience. There was a long hiatus between the last two podcasts. This one not quite so much, only a week and a half or maybe 2 weeks depending how long it takes me to edit. So we're starting to get back to a regular schedule. For new viewers of the podcast, everywhere you can find me, should you want to, it's down below, including on Ravelry, Instagram, my blog, which is coming back, and Facebook as well. We do have a really pleasant Ravelry group with everybody crafting and chatting away, which is exactly what we like to see. This podcast is about knitting, and that's about it. I am also the hand dyer behind the Project Bag yarns and the maker of the Project Bag project bags and the designer of the Project Bag designs. I've got so many hats on, actually it can get quite confusing. I was actually talking to a magazine about advertising and they got completely confused because I am also the manager of a local yarn store. Not the owner, it's not my business, but I have got the privilege of managing it. And this magazine got themselves tied up in knots, bless them, because they had been speaking to me as Gemma of the Project Bag, and then they were speaking to me as Gemma of the Yarn Dispensary. And there was a hairy moment where I nearly ended up with both accounts under my name and under my bank. Whoops. So yeah, I have been speaking a lot about the Yarn Dispensary lately. So if you have tuned in just for the last couple of podcasts, I just want to say that my business is the Project Bag, and that is how I'm coming to you tonight. This isn't a hard sell podcast at all. This is my chance to kick back, have a cup of tea. Not at the moment, it's hot. Okay, I'm British, we don't have aircon. I'm not going to apologise for moaning about the heat. Let's get that out of the way right now. Yeah, so I do have a Diet Coke, which is my other kind of little vice. And anyway, have a chat with you about all things crafty, and that's where we're going to start. We're going to start by talking about what you're making. I am so pleased to see that both the extant cows, that's the Lace Along and the Fan Club cow, are both going really well. I'm slightly envious of the number of FOs you guys are managing to produce. So to quote the lovely Caroline, I am kind of finishing things vicariously through you lovely lot. Do go and check out the threads and have a look at everyone's finished objects. And also the chatter in there is really nice as well. We're really starting to build up a sense of kind of camaraderie and supporting one another through our knitting and crochet, because as I say, my cows are multi-craft jewel. They will always welcome knitting and crochet. Where possible, they will welcome spinning. I haven't included spinning in the Lace Along, and I suppose maybe I should have done, but you know, my cow, my rules. And on the Facebook group, it's more multi-craft wool as well, which brings me to the third craft along. Oh, see, I'm doing it. It's so easily done, isn't it? But the third one is the Crack Those Whips cowl. I have brought it back. The first year I was running the Project Bag, before I started the podcast, I had the finish or frog cowl, where you made a decision whether you were to finish your whips or frog them. I frogged none. I'm a massive whip hoarder and I didn't frog any of them. I did finish a few things, but not as many as everybody else. And then last year with the podcast, I brought in the Crack Those Whips cowl, with the idea of getting as many whips off the needles before the autumn and kind of gift creating season really kicked off. And that was really popular. Typically I finish nothing. I mean, of course, this is me, but lots of people finish lots of things, so we've brought that back. Anything that was a whip on or before the 1st of July 2019 counts, okay? And so this is the one where actually new cast-ons don't count for cracking the whips, all right? I know that's a little bit weird for podcasts. Normally it's new cast-ons, but no, this one, it's actually only whips. Don't mind how long it's been on your needles for, but the idea is we get it off. Needles or hook or embroidery hoop, drop spindle, spinning wheel, whichever is appropriate for you. So we're going to do that. And of course it is running with all the other sorts of crafts: woodwork, metalwork, painting, sketching, mosaics, pottery. I'm doing it again, trying to think of crafts and failing miserably, but you get the idea. So any of those you can pop into the Facebook group. So there are going to be like 2 ways of winning. I'm thinking of also trying for the first time an Instagram one. So we are going to have the hashtag. I apologise for the jump edits. I actually blended crack and whip and completely mispronounced my own cowl. I'm not going to go into any further detail. I'm sure you can fill it in for yourselves. So we're going to have the Crack Those Whips Cowl 2019 hashtag. So if you use that on Instagram, then I will pull prizes at the end of the summer from there as well. So you've got Ravelry, you've got Facebook, and you've got Instagram. 3 ways to win. If any of my lovely viewers happen to be makers, designers, creators, and would like to contribute something to the podcast for prizes, which will obviously have the added bonus of giving your business a bit of a plug, then please do get in touch. I would really appreciate the help in finding some wonderful things to reward my wonderful makers, knitters, crocheters, crafters, creators. Okay, so that's whip stuff out of the way. Let's move on to half objects. I don't have a finished object for you this week. My creating time is very, very minimal. When I am at the shop, the yarn shop I manage, I obviously it's better to work on things in the shop yarn at the shop, because obviously, you know, there's a conflict of interest, and so I work on shop samples while I'm at the shop, and so when I'm at home I then work on my things for the project bag. And I did have a cheeky little new cast on Sunday. I think it might have been Sunday. In fact, I'm sure it was Sunday, because my boss and I were in the shop together, and I know he came to help out on the Sunday. Or was it Saturday? I don't know. It really doesn't matter. I cast it on at the weekend and I've almost finished it. But again, I've been working on it during shop hours. So here we go. And I'll explain why in a minute. Ta-da! I've pinned it out because I think that's the only way I'm really going to be able to show you. And it's clashing horribly with my giant blocking board. Right, so for those of you that don't know, blocking is a method of kind of making your knitting or crochet the correct shape and size after you've knit it. So if I was to unpin this, where you've just got stocking stitch, or and some people call it stockinette, it would just curl and you'd get this tiny little strip and you wouldn't be able to see what it is I'm talking to you about. And actually holding it out so you can see the whole thing just really doesn't work. I had a little practice before I came on camera. You remember last week I had such trouble showing you the Eloise little girl's cardi, the crocheted one? So I decided to just pin this out. And this is an ordinary children's puzzle foam mat that I picked up from Argos, and it was in the summer sale, so it was 20% off. I think I got them for about £9 a pack, and there were 6 in a pack. So I've got 12 of these, which is fantastic for blocking projects. But also they make brilliant dens for when your godchildren are around. So a few months ago we had baby Oliver, who's my newest little godson, and his big sister Rosie, who's 3. They were round and we got the mats out to, obviously for Oliver to be able to be comfortable on the floor and blankets, because it's more padded than just the carpet, but also to create a den for Rosie. And I ended up crawling into this den, so we got the the clean duvets down, and we just had a wonderful time. And then we decorated biscuits. I think actually this was before Christmas, because this was in my Vlogmas episodes, which kind of died a death when my laptop charger exploded, and not quite as dramatically as that, but anyway, it's there. I show off the biscuits. But anyway, so these are great for blocking and for creating dens and hideouts and garages and all sorts of other wonderful things. So this is the, my voice might go a bit muffled now because I'm going to be behind the board, but this is the Pink Henry tank. And yes, I know it's blue, bear with me, but the name is pink. It's the Pink Henry tank by Sublime, and designed, it's the 12th or 13th little pattern book designed to go with Sublime yarn. So I have used Sublime Baby Cashmere Merino Silk, and it's a DK weight yarn, double knitting, also known as an 8-ply, or not sure what the equivalent is in American terms. Maybe you could tell me below. And I have used, it's a 1x1 rib, but I have adapted it to be a twisted rib because I like the finish better, and some plain stocking stitch. It's a little tank top with the neck, and I've just this last 5 minutes cast off the neck because I wanted to be able to show it to you, and I couldn't while it was on the needles, and I hadn't quite cast it off at the shop. So all I've got left to do is to pick up and do the armholes on either side, and that will be finished. Now, the reason I cast that on, and you're thinking, Gemma, why are you casting things on? You're so busy, you don't have time, your whipboard is almost full. The reason I've cast it on is because the lady who works in the sandwich shop across the marketplace from the yarn dispensary, where I often go and have my lunch or my morning coffee, really wonderfully had her little boy last week. Which may even be the week before last by the time you see this, I don't know. And it just seemed right that the yarn dispensary, me and the team, gave something, a little something that was knitted to celebrate welcome this little man arriving safely into the world. So, you know, that's what I decided to do. We already had the pattern, obviously, because we stock the books, and one of my friends had already knit it, and knit it really successfully, so I thought that will do. I should be able to do it in a couple of days. Obviously not quite, because I'm very busy at the shop, but I'm nearly there. Oh, hold on, something interesting happening. Oh, it's a false alarm. The cat got very interested in, he sat on the window ledge outside. He got really annoyed with me when I got home early because I didn't open the window straight away, and the lounge windows are to him one giant cat flap, but I didn't open them. And so he just started picking at the front door and howling to be let out the front door. I don't know why. I mean, he doesn't go out the front when I'm not home. But we've got quite wide window ledges with a window box. And he's actually taken to sitting in the window box, which isn't going to be helpful when I'm trying to plant it up with beautiful geraniums. If I've got a picture, I'll put it here. If I can't work out how to do that because it is on my Instagram, go and check out my Instagram and you'll see, in my stories, you'll see the cat. Anyway, on to a hoe. Hop, hop. Hopping onto your screen, here we go. Yes, this is going to be a familiar sight to you by now. I have another half object, and that is one half of a pair of socks. This is in my opium colourway, which was, the tube was cranked by my lovely friend Amy on her Erlbacher Gearhart Speedster circular sock machine. You can actually Google Amy Florence sock machine, which is kind of hilarious because it's like Amy Florence and her machine, but there we are. I bet that's really not original, is it? But she very sweetly cranked me some socks and aches, knowing that I was really pushed for time before the Wool Monty show because I was busy dyeing and making the bags. And she said, look, come on, give me some of your yarn. I'll crank you some tubes. All you need to do is the toes and heels, and then you've got samples for your show. She's such a darling. But anyway, here we go. So I don't know how well this is going to show up because this is the evening light, and actually the lighting on this podcast is probably going to be a bit naff, but if I'd spent 15 minutes setting up the studio lights, I'd have been yawning the whole way through and wouldn't have had half the time I do to talk to you. So here we are. It's a hung hem. I've still got the waist yarn on there so you can see. Last week I actually demonstrated cutting the tubes apart to release them, and I have picked up and knit the toe, and you can see this appears to be a self-striping yarn, It's actually kind of a pseudo self-striping because it entirely depends on the gauge and the number of stitches. So Amy's sock machine is set up to do 72 stitches to a round, whereas I would normally only knit 60 stitches to a round for my socks. And also the gauge is slightly tighter than I get on my 2.5mm needles. I use Knit Pro Symphony 2.5mm, and I use two 40 centimeters. So I'm kind of knitting flat but still in the round. It's not quite magic loop, it's not quite DPNs, it's my own little way of doing things. And I have actually suggested to Amy, whose grandma on Tea and Possibilities is starting to knit socks, I've suggested that might be a nice way to go if she's not sure. So anyway, so obviously my gauge is slightly tighter on the circular sock machine because I went down to a 2mm because the circular sock machine was tighter than the gauge I would get with my 2.5mm. And this is now producing this kind of micro striping effect. So this is why it's not really a true self-striping sock yarn. It's just the way the yarn is dyed. So I have dyed half the skein black, half the skein red, and this is what came out on this particular gauge. So my friend Myra, who was my booth buddy, picked a skein of opium as her thank you gift. I mean, I didn't just give her a skein of yarn by way of thank you for being my booth buddy. I'm not going to go into all of that because, quite frankly, that's our business. But rest assured, she was well looked after. But anyway, she chose a skein of opium and she's knitting it into socks, and it is micro striping. So it's one row black, one row red, one row black, one row red. It's fascinating stuff. I'm totally in awe of anyone who can dye true self-striping sock yarn like my lovely friend Marcus, Fiberpunk. There's maths and precision involved, and I'm neither mathematical nor am I precise, as anyone who has been watching this podcast for a little while will know. So anyway, there is another half object. Well, Gemma, why, when you had 3 half objects last week, didn't you just go ahead and finish and do the other heels and other toes? The answer simply is pressures of time. I am getting ready for Perth Festival of Yarn. Here we go, it's getting exciting. You are going to have to listen to me talk about Perth every day on Instagram, on Facebook, on my podcast for the next 50, oh my goodness, there aren't enough days left days. I am pressured for time. I managed to get some of the socks completed for the Wool Monty show. My only knitting time is when I'm at home after work, and occasionally I'm too knackered to do anything that requires any sort of concentration. I've also got to dye the yarn and make the bags, so I've actually got stock for the show. So my knitting time is really, really limited. Now I could have thought, yes, but I want a pair of socks and a finished object for the podcast. But doing that would actually have taken valuable time away from me doing my next whip that I'm going to show you. I think it's getting quite dark. I might put a light on and see. The light's going to go a bit strange, but bear with me, okay? Just bear with me. Oh, hello. Oh, that is bright. That's a bit better. I know the lighting is going to be kind of yellow. I'm not going to apologise for that. It was more important to me that I got to sit down and speak with you and get back to the podcast, which I absolutely love doing. You know, as I get closer to Perth and as time becomes slightly less strained, I will probably have time to set up the podcasting gear better. I would normally be recording on a Thursday morning, but I had an early meeting this morning, so that's why I'm recording. That was a bicycle. Sorry, the windows are open. You are going to hear lots of traffic noise, I'm afraid, but pretend we're sat in my living room. I mean, that's what you're doing, isn't it? You're hopefully sitting there knitting or crocheting or spinning or sewing, possibly not doing anything that requires too much concentration. I normally say that at the top of the episode. Oops, forgot, sorry. You know, I like it to feel like you're sat with me having a cuppa and having a crafty chat. So, and if you were here in my lounge, you would be hearing the traffic noise. I've talked about that way too much, haven't I? I've totally over worried about it. I'm gonna chill. What was I saying? My next whip that I want to show you. Here we are. This is not a new cast on. Right, so my next whip is in my Song of the Sea colourway, which you can see if I hold it up. It's all tones of blues and greens, and it is starting to be the back of a cabled jumper. Here's the yarn in the cake. The skeins are in the other room, so I can't go and get those. I mean, I could go and get those, but I'm not going to. And you can see the blues and greens sort of playing together there. Do you like it? I hope so. This is on my double knitting base, which is 100% superwash merino, and it is going to be coming with me to Perth Festival of Yarn. I think I might have to call a halt on the idea of the Aran, but I will have 3 bases with me. And this is one of my standard colourways, Song of the Sea. I actually do it on my 4-ply as well. I will be releasing 5 autumn winter colourways, diverting a bit here from what I was talking about, but I'm going to be releasing a collection of 5 autumn winter colourways based on a palette that was determined by the fabrics that I've chosen for my project bags, and they're going to be really nice, warm, rich autumnal colours. No browns. I'm kind of pulling out the other shades that come out in autumn, thinking about berries and autumn leaves and all that sort of thing. I have already dyed up my first colourway, but it has already gone to my lovely friend who really wanted to help me out and knit a sample for me. I'm really, really grateful. I didn't ask, she offered, and I'm so grateful to her for that. She did say to me she started it and she's absolutely loving using the yarn, so I'm really, really pleased about that, and you'll have to look out for it at Perth. But I haven't yet dyed any on my DK weight base, so there's going to be 5 colourways. I'm going to have a limited run of each colourway at Perth, and you can do orders as well, and I'm going to dye them onto my 4-ply yarn as well. Since I commented that you're going to have to get used to traffic noise, my road's gone crazy busy. I don't know what it is. It's 9 o'clock at night. Why are there suddenly so many cars and people? We don't have net curtains at the moment. This is the one with all the tangents, by the way. And the reason we don't have net curtains up at the moment is because my cat uses the window as a cat flap. He's an idiot, and he A, didn't figure out the window was shut, and B, forgot you're supposed to go around and under the net curtains rather than through them. So he ended up dropping, holding onto the net curtains, and tore a hole that big in one of my net curtains. I was really upset, and we did leave them up because you couldn't really see it from outside because there's a bar across the window. The window's like 2 panels. And then partway through the night, we're redecorating my bedroom. It's not a big job. We're kind of taking it really, really slowly because neither of us have much time, but we need something constructive to do at home. It's just where we're at the moment. So we're sleeping downstairs, and partway through the night, I heard this awful noise, and Kit 9 was basically using the hole in the net curtain as an extension of his window, cat flap, which meant that he got stuck in it. So okay, the net curtains all had to come down. So that means that not only is there lots of noise, but also there are no net curtains, and all the passers-by are looking directly into my living room and staring at me talking to the camera. Hold on one moment, I am going to shut the windows. Okay, now I've really upset the cat who was sleeping on the windowsill and basically now thinks I've shut him out. So I feel like the worst cat mum. Oh, clever boy. He's just caught a moth. This is good. If you can hear banging on the window, it's the cat trying to catch moths against the glass. Not apologising, it's just life. How did we get onto that? Oh, net curtains, and I've left my whip is now travelling across the room. Here we go. So it's going to be a cable cardigan. And this is Song of the Sea in DK, and it's 100% superwash merino. I love the stitch definition I'm getting. Let me show you the actual pattern. This is one from a magazine, and it is from Let's Knit, and it's designed by Anniken Allis. And I don't know There's no date on this one. It's probably quite an old one. I used to buy knitting magazines quite regularly and cross stitch magazines quite regularly, but storing them is a real issue. So what I decided to do was go through and be really, really strict with myself and say, right, which of these do I actually really envisage myself knitting one day, or really, really, really want to knit? And this cardigan was one that made the cut, or the tear, if you will forgive the phrase. There we go. So it's called the Tilly cardigan. I would have preferred it to be a crop sweater, actually, to be honest, but and I could have turned it into a sweater, but that requires brain, and I have no brain at the moment. But I just love the cables on the back, and you can see the front has a cable as well. I mean, I would have preferred that to be a sweater, but you know, you can't have it all, can you? So I'm creating that using my Song of the Sea colourway, which I absolutely love. And I dyed some up last autumn when I launched the project bag, and the DK weight yarn just sat there. No one bought any. And I don't know if it's because I was really new as a business and had the whole no reviews, so what do people think? I don't know if it's because people don't want to knit in DK weight. But I'm going to launch it again for autumn, relaunch the base again for autumn, and I love it. So do you know what, if no one else likes it, I'm going to have some amazing things in my wardrobe. So that is my other whip. So I did have another cheeky cast on, as people who follow my Instagram will know. That was cast on last Saturday during my Learn to Knit course that I'm running at the shop, and I needed to have one to demonstrate. So again, that's nothing I've got here. It's nothing I'm working on at home. It is purely kind of knitting along with my students. So here we have my whip board. As you can see, not a lot is coming off of it. Things are going onto it. I have 36 whips. I am not working on them all. I am actually quite good, believe it or not, at prioritising things within my whips. So at the moment, my focus is on stuff for the project bag. So I'm working on getting my samples finished. I have started but left it at work. And I could start this legitimately because of my crochet course. I've started a crocheted blanket thing. I don't know what it's going to be yet. In Myra, one of my really popular colorways. I've got a knit sample but not a crochet sample, and I really wanted to show how to crochet up. So that's not on here, and I suppose that would take me to my 36 whips completely. But as I said, I am working exclusively pretty much on, oh look, you can see me. Hello, can you see my hand there? Do you see it in there? Trippy. I mean, confusing. Yeah, so I am working on the project bag stuff. The only other stuff I've touched is gift knits. So one of my friends had a baby recently, and I started knitting a cabled jumper for him. I haven't actually touched that in a few weeks because I've been working on project bag stuff in my limited knitting time at home. Yeah, so that's what's happening. That's why there isn't much progress on the whips. The other whips that you will see quite a lot of are the ones that I'm doing actually at work, but again, they're for the shop, not for the project bag. Let's move on then to acquisitions, because I have a few this week. This actually arrived after I recorded the last podcast, but before I edited it and got it out to you. And it arrived when I was at work, and it broke me. Look at this. It's making me feel all fuzzy even now. It's just, yeah, I'm so lucky to have some incredible friends who have been so supportive to me, both in and out of the fibre world. The kindness that so many of you have shown me has just absolutely blown me away. I'm so grateful. Thank you. And this is no exception. This is Melted Moglet Dye Works, and the colourway is a mystery base. It's wool, I'm not sure which. It's 4-ply, and the colourway has been called Lara's Mummy, and it's beautiful. And I don't know what it's going to grow up to be. It will grow up. It needs to grow up. It's special, and just, it needs to be created into something, and I think it's going to be something that I can wear around my neck and close to me. But for now, I'm enjoying squishing it and loving it. So it says here, inspired by the antics of the dastardly Grumpelstiltskin, brewed under the watchful gaze of helpful knitting cats Schmeagol and Martha Bean in Perthshire, Scotland. So yeah, it is Perth, and actually this was a lovely gift from my friend Eva, who is the director of Perth Festival of Yarn, but also dyes yarn herself, which actually I didn't know, and I couldn't believe I didn't know this. But as I say, she's kind of busy running an international festival. And I just love the logo as well. There we go. So that was just, thank you, Eva. Thank you so much. I mean, I thanked her already. Of course I did. I rang her straight away and thanked her. And she knows how much it means to me. And yeah, but here I am on the podcast. I know she's going to watch this because she does for some reason. So thank you. On to other acquisitions. I have managed to misplace, and I'm gutted about this, but I will put it on my Instagram when I find it. My friend Lou, who I crocheted the little girl's cardie for, messaged me and she went, mate, can I get you to get me one of these and send it up to me? So bless her heart, she wired me the money so that I could purchase a stitch marker by Hannah of the Corner of Craft for her and send it up to her in Scotland when I sent her little girl's cardie. And while I was at the stand, I couldn't resist picking up a beaded stitch marker for myself. You're just going to have to imagine it because I can't find it. I had it ready when I did my last podcast, ran out of time to talk about it, and now I've put it somewhere safe and can't find it. But it is the most beautiful tiny little heart. And I think what a lot of people maybe don't realise is that Hannah actually hand beads these herself. Now that involves using the thinnest of needles, the finest of wire or cotton or whatever it uses, and actually manipulating the beads into a specific pattern. It takes a long time and a lot of skill. And I've been admiring her work for ages. I love her sheep. I love her dragons. Avocado. I picked a little tiny heart as a treat to myself. I don't have it to show you, but I will show you next time. But I still wanted to give Hannah a shout out and say, go and check her out. If for some reason you are not aware of her beautiful beaded stitch markers, she is such a hard-working woman. She is also incredibly sweet, and you just need to go and check them out and give us some love. My next acquisition is actually from a little while ago, and I can't remember if I showed it to you or not. There was a trunk show by Folkestone Harbour Yarns, and Susie focuses on natural dyed yarns, and well, she does both. She does chemical dyed and natural dyed, and she's busy building her dye garden at the moment, so I do go and follow her on Facebook and see what she's up to. But I couldn't resist when she had her trunk show picking up a mini skein set of her pastel rainbow. No idea what it's going to grow up to be just yet. I just love them. I might put ribbon through them and hang them from my Christmas tree. Who knows? Who knows? Or I might do another Knitting Goddess cowl with them, perhaps. 280 metres, that's possible. Or I might, at 70 grams. I don't know what I'm going to do. Suggestions on a postcard, please. I have a postcard, but it's got information on the back that doesn't tell me what to do with it. It doesn't give me a project. So what do you think I should do with these? Okay, and my final acquisition is the one I hinted at last week, being really rather too excited about. I'm looking around on the floor because there is actually another acquisition somewhere that I can't find, but I'll show you that next time. Last time I talked to you that I discovered Mrs. Hinch, who is from my lovely home county of Essex, and she is such a sweetheart. She really, really is, and she just makes me smile, and she loves cleaning and has, for me, turned it into a bit of a game, into a bit of fun. And her dad is northern, so says Minky with a northern accent, so it's Minky. That was an awful impression. I'm doing an impression of Sophie Hinch, who's doing an impression of her dad, which wouldn't necessarily be the kindest impression anyway. but she talks about this cloth so often that my treat to myself this month was my very own minke. And it's made me really happy. You might remember that at the beginning of the year I was experimenting with minimalism, and I have hinched my Narnia, which is what she refers to as your cupboard of cleaning supplies, Narnia. She actually has a big wardrobe in her garage full of cleaning supplies as well, so she can shop from there. I do not have a garage, nor do I have a spare wardrobe. If I did, it would have clothes in it. Because we are short on storage in this house. But I couldn't resist to buy myself a minke, and it is living unused yet and waiting to start with my next chapter of Mrs. Hinch, Hinch Yourself Happy. I'm waiting to use that. This is actually my second minke, because I came home to discover that my husband had done the washing up and had read that you can use it for washing up, so he'd used it. I was like, but that's my minke, it's my new thing. So bless him, he bought me a new one. Aren't I lucky? And I can't begin to tell you how much this is making me smile. What that says about my state of mind or how tired I am at the moment, I don't know, but it's making me happy, and that's a good thing, right? That's a good thing. So that is it for this week. I don't have any project bag news for you, other than to say I am working behind the scenes on getting my website up and running. You will have noticed that I have still got my Etsy shop as set to being on holiday, which it has been since I went to the Wool Monty. And I will talk to you a bit about the Wool Monty as well. And yeah, and that's because I have decided that Etsy is no longer for me. They are changing the way they are charging fees, and I think I touched upon this last time. I didn't have a shop update during the month of June because obviously I was preparing for the Wool Monty, but I did have stock there, and I think I made something like £28 in sales and was charged £13 in fees, and I was just like, this is ridiculous. This is just ridiculous. So I'm going to set up my own website where I have more control, and I can organise the shop updates better, and it will be easier for you guys to buy internationally, to take advantage of multi-buy offers or discounted postage and packing. And I can also put pre-orders for custom dyes of my colourways as well on there. So it's actually going to be a lot more user-friendly. And it will give me the opportunity to rejuvenate my website and revive my blog, which has been neglected since about February. Obviously, February, March were difficult months for me because of Lara's birthday and her anniversary. And then in April, I started my new job, and I've just not had chance to update that blog. I'm one person, and I'm learning that it's okay to not be able to do all the things all the time. But I would like to get back to it because I really do enjoy writing, just like I enjoy talking to you on the podcast. So there we are. There are going to be new autumn winter colourways launching at Perth, and they will be available when I get back from Perth as well. So that's it. There's no kind of project baggy news like that. I suppose all that's left is for me to talk about the Wool Monty. I did dabble with the idea of doing a vlog montage thing, but that is going to take a lot of time and editing, and it's not that it's not worth it. The Wool Monty is absolutely worth the show time for that. I just physically don't have the time. And, you know, sometimes things have got to give, and it was that for me this time. So I'm going to talk to you about it instead. I went to the Wool Monty show in Sheffield. It was my very, very first Fibre Festival, and it was their first Fibre Festival as well. So it was a bit of a learning curve and an experience for all involved. I was very lucky to be next to Verity of Truly Hooked. The organisers were very sweet and sent out emails in advance when they were doing the allocations saying, you know, if there's someone you're travelling up with or someone you particularly like to be beside, if you're doing a collaboration, just let us know. So I dropped Verity a message and said, can I be next to you? And she said yes, of course, because she's lovely. And they put me next to her stand, which was really sweet of them. And it was really good. I didn't need any hand-holding particularly. It was just nice to be next to someone who has lots of experience at festivals, who knows me personally, and just actually knowing that she was there was enough. Do you know what I mean? To kind of give me the confidence to keep going myself. So I didn't actually need to call on her. But I did get to play with Frank, who goes by Tiny Ginge, who's Verity and Merrick's youngest child. He had a plush Triceratops and a plush Tyrannosaurus Rex, and he very, very sweetly offered me one, and we kind of had a rare battle, which was really lovely. And totally distracted me from the fact that I was supposed to be putting my own stand together. But you know, if a toddler offers you a toy to share, that's a big thing, and it's really a real compliment that they're happy to play with you. So we had a rare battle, and of course he won, because of course he would. He had the T-Rex. I mean, you know, although I'm a fan of a Triceratops, I do like a Triceratops. That reminds me, actually, I found dinosaur pasta in Lakeland the other week, and I just had to get some because one of my other godchildren loves, as he calls them, Dineysaws. He can say Stegosaurus, Triceratops, Diplodocus, Tyrannosaurus Rex. He can say all of those perfectly, but for some reason it's Dineysaws, and it just melts me. So yeah, I couldn't resist getting some dinosaur pasta shapes for him. I know that's a really weird thing when you think children like that would want Play-Doh, but if he likes dinosaurs, I know that pasta will make him smile, and he gets to eat the dinosaurs. How cool is that? I was talking about the wool Monty and got distracted by Frank and his dinosaur. So we got there, and my first impression when I went in is, oh my good grief, this is huge. I mean, it's an arena, so it was vast, and I've been in arenas before, but as a spectator, I've seen a couple of basketball matches in London, and I went to the O2 Arena to see a couple of concerts. So I'm kind of aware of how big it is, but I've not been in the actual sort of down flat bit, you know? And oh my goodness, the ceiling was so high, the room was so wide, it echoed. People were reversing their vans into the venue, which was brilliant, by the way. I'm not complaining. And I didn't know this, but there were also cages to help you move your stuff. I kind of wish I did know that, because it would have made life so much easier. Anyway, but that was all great. So my first thought was, oh good grief, it's huge. My second thought was, they're going to find me out and tell me that there's been a mistake and I need to go home. Massive imposter syndrome here. I know that so many people can relate, but no one often talks about it. And I think, you know, we should talk about these things. And then my third thought was, we're going to rattle around like marbles in a tin. And then no more thoughts happened because I just got on with it. And it was great. I was so proud setting up my banner, which I'd had made because it was one of the requirements that actually you have a nice big banner or sign advertising who you are. And so I'd got a standing roller banner made with my logo on, and it had been done by a local printing company to where I work, Abbey Print in Faversham, and they were fabulous. Totally put up with the fact that I didn't have the image resolution I needed, or I wasn't sure what I wanted, and I ordered it with 3 days to go. They were brilliant. I didn't get time to get a demonstration of how it works, and there was a rather funny moment because I put the stand up and it was absolutely fine, and we came in the next morning and I'd had a nightmare that my stand had collapsed because I'd put it together wrong, and actually my banner had fallen over because I didn't realise there were little feet on the bottom to help it stand up. But the lady on the stall behind me, after the banner had fallen over almost on top of her, came and sorted me out. And while we were setting up, Mand was there to welcome us. She was really friendly, and it was nice to see the organisers and just feel okay. I had grid walls, and there are things that I would do differently. I would have sheets to hang behind my grid walls because of course then you can see right through them, and it just felt a bit industrial. But yeah, spent some time setting out my yarns, setting out my table, and then it was time for the show, and what a day. It was great. I did say to Mand actually that when I was setting up, I was surprised by how spacious the booths were, and actually she said that Rosie, who is a wheelchair user and one of the other organisers, tried out when they were marking them out on the floor the sizes of the booths, and had decided that actually 2 meters by 2 meters was too small really, so they extended the minimum size of the booth, which was great, and they're going to keep them that size next year as well, which is also really good. And it was great because I had customers who were wheelchair users and on mobility scooters who could get right into my booth, reach all the yarns, and actually shop for themselves, which I think is really important. And I know how crammed these booths can get. So that was really, really nice. The aisles were incredibly wide. It did make for a much kind of calmer atmosphere. You didn't have the kind of chaos that you get in some of the smaller venues where you're kind of shuffling past each other. But that was really nice. And actually, because everything felt so much calmer, and because there were so many seating areas like there are at Perth, actually, Perth is fantastic for seating. Everyone seemed a bit more relaxed, and you actually had time to really chat with your customers, which was really, really lovely. And yeah, there were lots and lots of positives about it. One of their fathers came round and spoke to every stall holder, which was just lovely. Was it Debbie or Rosie's dad? I'm not sure, but one of their dads came round and was chatting to us. The stall holders were really friendly. Verity was a sweetheart and looked out for me. And there were some other bits where I was able to loan my booth buddy out because Gemma was on her own for the first day of Snuggly Stars. So I sent my booth buddy over with a bottle of water and instructions to send Gemma to the loo if she needed it. You know, and it was just a really nice atmosphere. I think that show has a lot of potential. Honestly, it was quieter than I was hoping for. And they've been very open and published their show numbers. But for a first show, and my first show as a vendor, I was really pleased with it, to be honest. And I'm thrilled that they're coming back next year and they already know that they're doing that. And I hope that the things that make that one special, the spaciousness of it all, actually are retained. And I would think it would be, because that's their kind of ethos, I guess. And that's why it's in an arena with, I think there were 70 vendors or 75. I could be wrong. Someone can correct me, that's fine. And, you know, in a way we were a bit dwarfed by the high ceilings, but the lighting was fairly good and the aisles were such a nice size, and the atmosphere was great. And so many people, so many of my customers said to me, and there were a surprising number, surprising to me, because you wouldn't normally see it at festivals, of wheelchair users zipping around. Actually, one challenged my booth buddy, who was also a wheelchair user, to a race. So I missed that. I missed the wheelchair drag race, but I kind of wish I'd seen it and caught it on camera. I don't know who won. Myra's being a bit coy about it. So yeah, I just thought that was great. I'm running out of what to say about it, really. It was really good, and I think it's got huge potential. And yeah, I'm definitely considering applying again for next year. Definitely considering it. We'll see how things go. Yeah, and that was the Wool Monty. You know, everyone was really friendly, accommodating. Oh, that was what I was going to say. A lot of the customers, several of the customers, particularly who were using wheelchairs or mobility aids, said to me, "This is my first festival. I don't normally bother going." And I think the other local ones to them are restricted just because of the venue, and that's not their fault at all. But it's like, is it cattle pens or something? So obviously the sizes are predetermined and there's limited amounts of room. So it was really nice to see so many people having their first festival experience in that area. Although there are lots of festivals that do have really good accessibility, and I would encourage people to look into those and see, because actually I think, obviously I can't say with any certainty, not being a wheelchair user myself, but I think there are some that are probably more accessible than you might think. But anyway, loved the Wool Monty, had a great time, got to go and see Hannah of the Corner of Craft, who I haven't seen since Unravel, when we hung out, and bought a beaded stitch marker. I also got to meet in real life my lovely friend Mia of Brambles and Me. We have got to know each other very recently, kind of bonding over Perth, and we've just hit it off. She's such a sweet woman and such a hard worker. She very kindly gifted me a beautiful metal pin badge with her logo, which again is in my box of things to keep safe for the podcast. I know. and I met down Sheepy Lane, and they were really lovely. I can't remember the name of the stall that was beside me, and I feel so awful about this, but she heard me saying to my booth buddy that I feel like a fraud, and she popped her head over her stand and went, "You're not a fraud, you've got the right to be here, it will be fine. Is this your first show?" I was like, how can you tell? Yeah, it was just great. I got to meet so many wonderful people, and yeah, I mean, I've got nothing to compare it to, having not been a vendor before, but I'm going to write up my reflections and things that I've learnt for my blog at some point. I'm not putting a timestamp on these things because I'm learning the hard way that that's not a good idea. Anyway, I am starting to waffle on in all sorts of weird directions. The Crack Those Whips cowl will go until the end of October. There will be an overlap between that one and the Great Festive Cast On cowl, which we will do soon. When I'm not podcasting, you can find me on Instagram. I will often pop up and do a little mini live. Sometimes I do that with my lovely friend Ellen of Mrs. Lamb's Yarns, and I'll link to her Instagram down below as well. And I'm also going to start hosting virtual knit nights every so often for the Project Bag. So it's an extension of the Project Bag Club, which is my Facebook group. So the next one is going to be Monday the 15th of July after I've done my next pop-up. So do make sure you're following me on Instagram. And, you know, we were so close to 250 subscribers. Actually, when I recorded last week, we had 250 subscribers, and I thought, oh, okay, time for the 250 subscriber giveaway I promised. And then as I was editing and I went to upload it, it dropped to 249. I was like, okay, well, that's me off the hook. But honestly, if you are enjoying the podcast, it would mean so much to me if you would hit subscribe, maybe turn on that notification bell, give me a thumbs up, maybe tell your friends, invite them to come and hang out for a cup of tea and a crafty chat. So until next time, take care. Bye.